All right then. So it's the True North Caricature Carvers, February 20th. I think it's our 39th session together, or 38th session together. So John Paul's here, and that's his email address. I'm Mark Sheridan, and Murray Lincoln's with us, and that's Murray's address as well. Contact us anytime. So tonight we're going to do a few things. We'll do our regular welcome when I close this slide and just kind of open it up for any questions that we've had from the previous Zoom calls or any comments that you might have. Scott Thompson is with us today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself in our All About Us segment. We've got one slide talking about the upcoming shows. There's two shows that I'm aware of, and so we'll talk about those. I probably have about a half a dozen slides or about that in terms of what's on the bench. So maybe it's been a slow month for carving, but we'll let everybody speak to what they've been working on in the last little while. Wayne Smith had volunteered a little earlier in the week to put on a little segment in terms of fitting a hat. Wayne was reminding me that on our last Zoom call, there were a few questions around one of his carvings and how you fit the hat onto the head. So he sent me a few slides, and we'll go over that. That'll be really helpful. At our last couple of sessions in December and January, we talked about a challenge. And so John Paul and I put together a challenge around carving our carvings kind of round instead of squarish, make them round. And so John came up with a really good notion around a baseball bat. And we've seen a few of those really good baseball bats produced, and a couple of those have been sent in for tonight as well. And I presented in January the hoodie guy, so a little guy that I had created for other classes here in town, and sent that out as a challenge. And we got a little bit of input around that too. And so we'll take a look at those.
All right. Thank you so much.
Um,
Jaden Best call.
yeah, you just want to mute, Pamela. And so then we're going to talk a little bit about small group tutorials or workshops. So this is an idea that John, Paul, and I just started banding around a few days ago, really, maybe a week ago. And the notion is to get us together in some fashion on Zoom to talk about more of a one-on-one or small group tutorials or workshops. So we've got a few ideas on that, but it's really going to be a discussion to get your ideas on it as well. And we'll see if we can't do something in that regard. And we'll finish up with any tips, tricks, or techniques anybody wants to add. Okay, so that's our discussion for tonight. I'm going to stop the share here, and we can see each other again. And I'll just open it up with a welcome to each of you to be back again. And any questions or any comments, now would be the time to take the floor, and we'll gab about that a bit. You guys do want to get this done so you can see the hockey game.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks a lot to all you guys who are organizing this all the time, and we really appreciate it, even though we're very quiet.
Yeah, I know you, Fred. You're usually not quiet, so no, it's a lot of fun. We all enjoy it, so it's fun to get together with all of you. But thanks for that comment. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation then. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. So Scott, I know you're on the line, and I have your slides as you sent them to me, so I'll just let you do the talking here, okay?
Okay. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity of introducing myself to the group. I'm from London, and it's through the London Community Wood Shop that I became aware of the group, and it was through my connection there with doing some wood turning and things like that that I started going to the carving nights and got really keenly interested in the whittling and started playing around with that. It's just another extension of the woodworking. You can see from this slide that some of my initial carving goes back to when I was doing decorative decoys when I was living in Montreal. and I took a course, and that's where I carved that little loon that you see there. That was my beginning project.
That Apple CarPlay, I cannot figure out. I can't find it. You turn it off.
You shouldn't have to turn it off. I have Apple CarPlay in my car, and I can switch back and forth between.
Well, I don't know how.
Hey, Smokey, you're just going to have to mute your phone here, okay? Because we can hear you and it takes over the meeting, okay?
So as you can see, if you look carefully, the balloon itself has actually suffered a slight accident falling off the table at one point, and like peanut buttered toast that your grandchild drops, it always lands in the worst possible thing, and it landed right on the end of the beak. Just crushed it. But I was able to repair it. But that's the first carving I'd ever done. It was a class project. And the one beside it is Redhead Drake that I did. And that was the third project that I took on. That again was a class project, but that was the first experience that I had in carving that really got me interested in doing woodwork. And since I retired, I've really gotten into wood turning. These are Christmas decorations that you see over on the right. I've done a variety of other things, bowls, etc. Any of the rejects or little bowls that I turn into funnels wind up as gifts for the grandkids to play with in their toy kitchen. So yeah, you'll want to flip over to the next slide there, Mark, or
yeah, I was just going to ask
do
you.
I have control of it?
Yeah, one of your finials there, is that reverse wood turning where you do it in 4 segments and then turn it around and put it on the lathe again?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so these are a few of those. I started a few years ago. Every Christmas, I make a Christmas decoration, a commemorative Christmas decoration from Grandpa to each of my grandkids. And these are some of the ones that I had done for Christmas of this last year. And most of it was scrap that I picked up at the community wood shop.
Really nice.
It's a huge source of good free wood. So this is a close-up of that redhead drake. I did this about 30 years ago when I was living in Montreal. And you can, if you can really get in there and have a look at that, on the right-hand side, you see the detail that I managed to put into it. That was all power carved in and then wood burned and all of that sort of stuff. And I sunk way too much time and effort into that thing that I became afraid to paint it because I know I'd screw it up.
Really looks nice.
And then these are some of the other ones that I've done as far as bowls and gifts and things like that are concerned. A lot of these are gifts that I've given to family for various different gifts, etc. The salt and pepper shaker went to my my niece as a wedding gift. But I've also started turning game calls. So there's turkey calls that I've made with the strikers. I don't know if anybody on here has hunted turkeys before, but it's rather an exciting sort of a thing to get into a conversation with a wild turkey and get them to come in on you. And so I started making some deer calls as well. And does anybody have any idea what this bony thing looking with a claw on it is? Anybody got any idea? I'll take that as a no. It's actually a turkey call.
Oh.
It's made out of the wing bones of a wild turkey with the spur just there as decoration. But that's the way the Indians used to call turkeys. You stick the narrow end just underneath your lip, and then suck on it. And that sounds or makes a very credible yelping sound like a turkey.
Isn't that neat?
Oh, next slide. Yeah, there we go. So these are the Christmas decorations and some of the other ones that I've done. So the ones on the top left there are either several different pieces of wood that have been glued together and then turned or reverse carved in that you temporarily glue them together and hollow out what ultimately becomes the interior first, and then you flip it around and do the outside. And they really look incredibly good. The
Oh,
two in the
yeah.
middle, similar process, but those are drilled out as opposed to reverse turned. So that's a solid block that is drilled out from both sides, and then the outside is turned. And then these are just scrap chunks of wood made into little mushrooms.
Hmm.
They make really funny looking little Christmas decorations.
Cool.
Yeah, especially
And
when
what's really
the
been my
grain is interesting, right?
experience in woodworking over the last 30 years until I got interested in the carving. So we get the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I've done over the last just couple of months, actually. I really only started doing any whittling or carving by watching videos and stuff like that after seeing some of the guys on the Tuesday night carving sessions at the wood shop. So the one in the middle is the very first one I did. And then the one on the left was the second one, and that was following Doug Linker's pattern or as 1x1 series. And it was a simple wood spirit, but I added a lot more detail into it. And then when I was down on vacation in Orlando just before Christmas, I found this stick down by the barbecue pit, and I happened to have my stuff with me. So I just sat down, and while I was cooking supper on the barbecue, I started whittling this guy and then finished him up the next day at the poolside.
Those are really nice. You've really done well. If you're just starting to carve, you've done well to get the faces looking as good as they are. Those are really
Oh, well,
nice.
thank you very much. I'll put some of that down to what I learned in carving decoys,
Mm-hmm.
getting feather
Yeah.
detail and things like that in there, because I added a lot of wood burning to some of these things. But yeah, it's just once you understand the process, I'm finding that I wouldn't say easy, but once you understand the process, it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
And this is my first big accident.
Yeah.
While I was trying to put the detail in the beard, the way I was holding it, I wound up breaking the nose off. So then I was thinking, okay, well, that's just going to go on the fireplace. But then I figured, no, I've invested way too much time in here. I'm going to finish it, and I'll just practice painting it. And then partway through, I realized I can paint whatever I want into those eyes. So that's where I came up with the idea of making it look like Google eyes, where he's looking at his broken nose.
Yeah.
So I guess that would count as a caricature, right?
Yeah, I suppose it would. I suppose it would. You know, you can always use glue too, right, Scott?
Not if you don't remember where you put aside the broken part.
Get in the
Okay.
app, maybe you shut the curve.
Yeah, I think it got swept up in the
Yeah.
chips and stuff like that. I put it aside, but it got swept up, and that was the end of it. So, but yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying things, and I've done a few other bits and pieces of stuff with following Doug Linker's 1x1 series, and then I had a lot of fun with this little hoodie guy.
Good. Well, you've made really good progress here. These are really nice.
Well, thank you.
Any comments or questions for Scott? Thanks for that, Scott.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, upcoming shows. We still the nearest one to us is the Quinty Wood Carving Show. That's April 12th, and that's in Belleville, and it's right off the 401, just south of the 401 at the Quinty Sports and Wellness Center. I don't know how many of you are planning to go, but it's a very good show, a very good show. And I know Fred. How many tables do the Kingston guys have again?
We have 3 tables.
Yeah, so we got quite a few people going, and if it's within travel distance for you, wherever you are, it's a really good show to go to. The other one that I see on the radar is the Owl's Nest Wood Carving Show, and that's June 6th and 8th, and that's in Waterloo, and that's at their big sportsplex, the Manulife Financial Sportsplex. I don't know if anybody's on the call tonight that can speak to that one, but again, that's a very good show. Okay, so those are the two shows coming up. All right, so what's on the bench? Let's take a look and see what people have sent in. And Larry, you've got a couple slides here, I think.
Hello there.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah, this is a piece in basswood that I did. I keep doing female figures, and I'm thinking I want to understand how to do everything, men, women, donkey, birds, or whatever. So anyway, this is a study that I did, my first one on the male carving. And I used all kinds of different pieces on the bottom. That's a piece of ash. On the back here, we have a bunch of dead ash. So I make different unique kind of stands on the bottom. But this is one of my first, let's say, male carvings. And but I had a lot of fun doing it. But I did it with finished it off with a floor finish polish as opposed to all the other finishes that I do with antiquing and everything else. And yeah, I gave it a bit of a different look, but I gave it like more of a buffed for your skin kind of look there, however, but it was something a little different. But yeah, I enjoy doing that.
So you said that the torso there is basswood.
Yes, there's a piece of basswood that
Yeah.
I used. Yeah,
And you
as
didn't
I
add
say,
any
with,
you didn't
furniture.
add any color to it or anything. You just put the floor polish on it.
Just a floor furnish on it. No painting, no
Yeah,
nothing.
looks
I
good.
just sort of tried that, and I think what it was maybe too is I used a bit of a brush that I think I've used on shoes, and so it gave it a bit of a darker look as opposed to just a clear look to it. But it also made all the dents in it and the muscles in that show up a little more. Like he was like Aquaman or something like that. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was wondering about that myself because I would have thought basswood with just wax on it would be a lot blonder than that. But you might be right. It was just the brush that you used and it really gave it a nice tint.
Like a skin tone.
Yeah, almost a skin tone. Yeah.
Yeah, I made it nicer than just like a blondie sort of thing. So yeah, so I think it came out kind of nice. And I think of antiquing every time we do our antiquing finishes, which I love on my caricatures. But on this, it was more of a brush look, but it was just sort of when your indentations, it made it sort of show up a little more.
Yeah. And you were just able to stand in front of the mirror and do your likeness that easily. What did you say, Pam?
Forgot my mic's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went from the six pack to the keg now, but
Uh,
That's cool.
and these were a couple of fun ones that there was sort of another version of what you can up there, Mark, with your one of the your school
hoodie
thing that
guy.
you did.
Yeah.
And I like these with the noses, and so my grandkids call this Grandma Populaire, and I don't know why, but anyway. So, but it made a little something with something round, and yeah, it gave us a little chance to like sort of same as your project with the hands in the pockets. And thing is, it's kind of neat with some of the carvings how you can really alleviate a lot of work and make it look cool at the same time in the character. If you put your hands in your pocket, you don't have to worry about fingers and hands and everything else. The faces, if you cover it with something with a hoodie and things like that, there were eyes, there were things like that. And I like big boots and things like that. So anyway, so these are kind of a fun little project.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of like the challenge that John and I put together, doing it around. You did a nice job of carving everything around. As you look at that, you really don't see anything that's flat, right? And that's the objective of that. So really nice.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Larry?
Good job, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Jacques, I think you're on tonight.
Yes, hi everyone. But it's no longer on the bench. I made this for Valentine's, so it was my Valentine's card to my wife.
Nice.
It's at the cottage we canoe all the time. Our dog always wants to go with us. I don't know if we could call it caricature carving, but more folk art. And I was inspired by Mary Shelley folk art. She has a lot of nice carving on the web.
I've seen it, yeah. And this is very nice. I like the colors you have in it too.
Yeah.
Very nice. Any
Yeah.
comments or questions for Jacques?
Very nice, Jacques.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. Thank you.
What was her
I
name
like-
again?
Sorry, Pamela?
What was her name again? Mary
Shelley.
Shelley? Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Very
Folk
nice.
art. I think if you look for a folk art to it, Mary, it comes up. She has lots of nice pieces.
Yeah, I
One
think
thing
I think I've seen her on Instagram too, right?
Yeah, that's where I discovered her, I believe.
Okay.
One thing, she does a lot of shading. She puts a lot of shading in her color, while mine are more flat. I need to learn how to do. I try to do multicolors, but I need more practice.
That looks pretty nice though. Like I'm looking up in the trees, the leaves of the trees, like it's not just one opaque color. I can see different tones of green in there. So that's really nice. Really looks smart.
Yeah, and you got a great representation on the perspective. It really does look like a background going away, and the canoe and things like that are positioned in the front of it. So the perspective on that is really nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Craig, you sent this one in?
Yeah, I took a course with Dale Green, and I learned a lot of different stuff. He doesn't carve. He doesn't start off rounding off his caricatures. He blocks everything in squares, and then he rounds things after. Which is a different concept. There's nothing wrong with it, I guess, but I don't do it that way because of what you guys have showed me over the years is round it off first and remember to leave room for arms and different features you want to put on your thing. Other than that, it's round. I also learned how to do whiskers in a different way and beards, which is also you never stop learning as far as I'm concerned. So I this Dale Green is a CCA member down in Utah, and his course had 47 people in it, so you didn't really carve anything. It was mostly just watching a video. I tried to carve with him, but I couldn't keep up.
You weren't doing that live with him. That was on Zoom or something?
It was on Zoom, yes.
It was on Zoom, yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's a nice
But
carving.
it's awfully costly, that's all.
Yeah,
With the dollar exchange and everything else.
yeah. Nice carving, Craig.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice job.
Okay, Mike, I think I got a couple slides here.
Yeah, this is kind of honoring the idea that our club has been asked to do demonstrations at Old Fort William, which is a fur trade reconstructed fort. And so I call this one Montreal to Fort William 1815. 1815 is the reenactors, and all of their materials they have at the fort are showing that particular year, as it were, because of course things evolved over the many years it was there. So here I've got a voyageur arriving at the fort, and he's getting a wave from the chief factor from the fort underneath the main gate. That's what the main gate looks like. I had kind of fun with this one because I had never done a relief. I don't do many reliefs at all, but this one, the dock, that bunch of logs at the beginning is actually the dock, which is still there in a different way right now, but it's there. And the voyageur and the canoe are all one piece of wood. And then it's the second piece of wood is the fort. And then the third is just a backing, a more clear piece of wood for the backing. Then I put it into a frame, which I, dovetail on the corners and, trying to set it into a frame. I was trying to figure out how to show that thing. Anyway, so that was my attempt at that.
Sorry, did I understand you right? That's one piece of wood, though, or is the background?
No, it's
background is separate from the foreground?
I don't know what happened.
You still there, Mike?
I just seem to have lost.
We'll wait for you.
Yeah, he said it was all 3 different pieces.
Boy, that'd be hard to do.
Layered.
Yeah, that'd be hard to do. Like the background, those vertical logs, sharpened logs, that'd be hard to nest into the foreground, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll never know. Mike is gone. When he's back, we'll ask him. That's a real nice carving, though. We'll get him to talk about that too when he's back. Okay. When Mike's back, we'll come back to it and get him to speak to those, okay? Okay. So Wayne's going to help us with this whole process of fitting a hat. And so I've got your pictures in an order that I hope you can follow. Oh, wait. Mike is back. Let's go back to Mike, okay, Wayne?
Yep, sure, no problem.
Okay, we'll see if we can't go back here. You there, Mike?
Yeah, sorry, what happened is there's a learning thing for me. I just received a FaceTime call from Toronto right in the middle of this, and it overrode the oh no, they're doing it again. Shit. Jesus.
You're just too popular.
Oh my God.
Probably want to buy your carving.
It can still hear me. Eh?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
I can actually still see you in the corner. If you can, I can still carry on, so you can keep going.
Okay.
That's the Fort one. The other one was one I won. We have a draw at every club meeting, and I won this nameless bird blank. And all I could see was it had a very long tail. So I tried to figure out which species of bird that we have would actually match that blank. And I found this one, a brown thrasher was one, a little seen, but in the woods and so on. So that's my slick attempt at doing that guy. And I carved a little beetle for him to be chasing in the woods, and made the kind of fun on that moss. I looked up how do you make something look mossy. So I had a piece of driftwood, so that's what that part is. And then I made the moss with just snipping the ends of various colors of yarn and make it into almost like a fuzz, and then glued that down into those grooves. And so that was kind of a good learning experience there I had for that. So yeah, it was a fun project, and
that turned out really well.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. It's just as we always do. It's our own interpretation of something in nature, and nature is always better.
Yeah. No, that's really nice. I like the colors in the bird too. Really nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions or comments for Mike?
About the layering, you want to ask about the layering, right? Of that first one?
Yeah. So you said that the background with the vertical logs, the defense, is separate from the horizontal logs in the foreground?
Yes, that's right. What I did is I went to Home Depot and got the widest piece of wood I could get, was 12 inches wide, white pine, and so the grain's running vertically. And I made 2 pieces of wood and cut the profile out along the top of the dock and the voyageur and his paddle and so on. And that's 1 piece of wood. And then I glued it on the second piece, which was going to be the fort. And so then it made it easier to get some pretty good depth on the relief carving. And it's just an experiment. I had never tried that before. And I realized that I thought I had the perspective about right. But then when I was sitting on an angle, I could see that his right arm is too far forward into the picture. So I might have to take that back and recarve it, except I'm nervous that the stain, which is early American maple, will be hard to match if I disturb it. So from the front view, I think it looks pretty
Yeah,
good.
I wouldn't recarve it. It looks good.
Yeah, thanks. Anyway, it was an interesting experience, and this is one I'll take it when we go and demonstrate at the fort again, which we've been
Yeah.
doing a lot of.
Yeah.
Pretty cool thing because they pay us to go, and
That is cool.
if we want to sell carvings, we can do that too, no charge.
Nice.
This is kind of a good deal we got there.
Nice.
So
Nice
thanks.
carvings. Nice
Thanks.
carvings.
Thank you.
Mike, how did you get the contrast in the edges and the holes and things like that?
Well, I think that the answer is very simple. It's stain. So all it is one single coat of early American maple stain, and it settles down into all those little grooves and holes and so on. And I do try to use a very fine, either knife work or very tiny gouges or V-tools to create some good depth into those things, so that I know the stain later will make it show up better. And so that's what I did. One thing that was a difficult decision I had to make along the top of that wall. Those things which look like a bunch of dots along the top in a row are part of the structure of how it's put together. And on the real fort, they are actually defensive pickets that stick out through the back of the wall and stick outward to repel invaders, I guess. And this fort actually was attacked, as it turns out, years ago. But of course, this is a reproduced fort. It's not the real fort. The real fort long rotted away and so on, and is now covered. The original site was down the river, on the Kaministiquia River, and they've covered it over years ago with a large train yard. So it's not like you can go there anymore. It's still an active train yard. Anyway, does that answer your question?
Well, I'm just wondering, did you seal the original piece before you put the stain on?
No.
So how do you?
No, because then the stain will go in better. Right? Like the stain will. You've got to be careful about. I find when you're doing this kind of stuff, and the same with in the round carvings, if you're going to do any sanding, you're going to run into trouble if you try to stain or in some times paint, because if you've got part of it cut with sharp tools and then part that is not, then they're going to look different. And the part that was sanded usually is going to be darker and maybe blotchy looking, distracting from the overall look. So I tried to make sure all of this was sharp tool cuts and no sanding at all, and then stained. And so that's how it turns out like that.
And the other point, I think, is you said this is pine, right?
Yeah, it's white pine.
Yeah. So that might be a little bit behind the question too, because pine will stain, basswood won't, right?
I think that I may have. I'm trying to remember now if I a little bit more detail here. I'm thinking maybe I use pre-stain wood conditioner on it first. It just because you can get worried about stain on pine being blotchy, and I was a little nervous about that. So I might have used that first. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's just on the bare wood.
Yeah, and that's the point with basswood too. Like basswood, you even get blotchier than pine. And so if people do stain to get the effect that you got there, they'll use the pre-stain. And the pre-stain is really just super thinned down urethane or varnish. So it's like thinned down to 50%. But that's enough just to just seal the wood so that the stain can go over it,
Yeah, and then those thin covers. One I use a lot is lacquer with lacquer thinner, 50/50, and that seeps right into the wood, and it really is pretty good if you want to really maintain lines and areas of color. Yeah. But in this case, all one color, and it's just a good quality stain. So yeah,
very good.
It turned out fine.
Turned out great.
Thanks,
Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, Wayne is going to talk about fitting a hat. So Wayne, you're back on, and I started with this slide and then just went piecemeal as you develop it.
Okay, that's the finished product there. So the only thing I could say about that is this guy, maybe I exaggerated a little bit, but you should always make sure that your ears are a little bit wider than your hat. It looks real lots of times when put the hat on, the ears, the head and the hat are the same width when you start. It just doesn't look right. So this guy, he's he's got some real big ones hanging out the side there. And but anyway, I said the other month there when the gentleman asked about it. Basically, it's what Lynn Dougherty showed with doing a cowboy hat. And if you go to the first picture, I think Mark is yeah, okay. That there is on the left is what I use for my head blanks, and that's there again. That's a vintage Lynn Dougherty. The one on the right is what I've used for my baseball caps or whatever. Uh, I've had people come in that weren't carvers and they'll see it and they'll ask me if that's a blank for a decoy head because I guess it looks like a duck's head with a bill. But anyway, that's what I use. Uh, that particular one is an inch and a quarter wide. Both no, the hat is an inch and a quarter wide. The head is probably an inch and 3/16 or might even be inch and an eighth. Uh, Another little trick, and it has nothing to do with the hat or anything. Uh, you notice that I've cut out the position of the ear and the on the head pattern. That ensures that I get both ears reasonably close to the same height from on both sides of his head. When I first started, I'd have one ear up, one ear down, and all that stuff. So that's a good way. You just flip your pattern over before you start carving. Use the same markings. But that's what I start with. So and by the way, that material for my patterns is post cereal box shreddies. I think it was that one. they make great templates and stuff. So that's what I use. So yeah, okay. And there's what I start with cutting out here again. You can see I have the ear drawn on there, and if we were to show the other side, the ear's reasonably close to the same location. Yeah, I guess that's about all I can say there. Okay. Head's all carved, and Lynn always took his walked over to the bandsaw and give him a haircut, he would say, and cut it off flat on the top of the head. And I got a terrible phobia about using the bandsaw on anything that isn't any irregular shapes. There's too much, in my opinion, there's too much room for accidents to happen. So I happen to have a radial arm saw, and I inherited a 10-inch. It's a metal disc. I guess you'd have to call it a sanding disc. One side's fairly coarse, the other side's quite fine. But I put that on in place of the blade on my radial arm saw, and I can use that as a sander. It's like a really heavy duty rig, and that's how I flatten that top of that head rather than use a bandsaw. You could whittle it down, but the idea is to get it down flat. Probably in this case here, I'd say about 3/16 above his ear line. So it gives you the idea is to get the head up inside of the hat. So and I also put a dowel when I assemble it. I not only glue it, but I dowel it too. Just yeah, you can see I've transferred the hole where the dowel is into the hat. And right now I'm experimenting with another one, putting the hat on just a little bit crooked on his head. It gives it a little more character, I guess. Adds a little more humor to it. So.
Now, how do you carve out the inside of the hat? Is it trial and error, or do you use Lynn's notion about using a pencil kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I like with the head flat, but the dowel not in it. I don't know if I got these pictures in the right order or not, but anyway, okay, I didn't. I guess I didn't give you one without the dowel.
Okay.
I flatten the top of the head, and then of course the bottom of the hat blank is flat. So I place it on there, locate it what looks good, trace around it with a pencil, and then cut it using. I carve almost exclusively with a utility knife around the outline of the head, and then I use I think it's a number 11 gouge. It's a fairly it's not a very rounded one, and keep digging it out till I get down like a quarter, 3/16 deep. Uh, I I use a graphite pencil. I was in a quilting supply store with my wife one time. She was buying material, and I wound up buying quilting pencils. So, but it's graphite, and it's good for transferring. So, put that on the top of the head, and then place the hat on it, and it'll transfer marks like for inletting that head in there. You just keep taking it on, trial and error. Uh, Dig it a little deeper, keep fitting it. It takes me to fit that hat on. It take me close to an hour to get it down the way I want it. Uh, I learned transferring the marks. I actually, when I bought the graphite pencil, I was into another hobby at the time. I was building muzzleloader rifles, and when you inlet the lock and the trigger mechanism and all that, you use a graphite or something to see any high spots, and it's really advantageous. Uh, that's and people seem to like the bill of the hat turned down. Like the first thing a guy to do when he buys a new baseball cap is deform the bill and bring it right down around the sides of his face. And that's all done with the number 11 gouge. It's just something you can spoil an afternoon doing one if you want to.
Well, just from the pictures, like you can see the advantage is instead of just carving the head and the hat, the advantage is it is sitting over the head, and it really gives the impression that he's wearing the hat. The other thing is, depending, I suppose, Wayne, how thin you want that brim to be, you'd make sure that the wood grain is going horizontally left to right so that you have some strength in that hat as well, right?
Absolutely. I should have marked on the pattern or on the blank when I started the direction of the grain. I wasn't thinking. I mean, I've done so many of them now. I don't bother, but for explaining, I probably should have. But yes, the grain is going in we'll say on the right hand picture there, side view, the grain is horizontal in that one. Yeah, I did do a carving here a number of years ago. It was a little Mike Shipley one, I think it was, and I carved it all one piece, and he had a bit of a baseball hat on, and a guy bought it from me, and he liked it and all that, but the grain was horizontal. No, the grain was vertical in that one, so it was going up and down through the bill of the hat, and of course his favorite cat knocked it on the floor, and that's where it broke. And he asked me to fix it, so it was all one piece. So I took it to the grinder and I ground it off completely and fitted a hat like this on it. It worked perfect. So yeah, you gotta pay attention to the grain.
Thanks for that, Wayne. Any questions for Wayne?
Wayne, do you typically carve the head as a separate piece? And if so, why?
Because that's the way I learned. No, I find it easier when I go to do a character now, and most of my guys are hunting and fishing sort of guys. I have a kind of a visual thing. I don't draw a pattern or anything. I have templates that I use, but I go out into a shop and I cut out the body, the head, and the hat, all in rough out. I carve the head first, then I fit the hat to it, and I have a little bust there that I use, and I just stick the head in the hat in that while I'm working on the body, and I'm able to look over at what I've accomplished and sort of develop a personality for my carvings, and then like I say, the body is last, but that's and another thing I do, but here again, this is just me. You know, everybody has a different way of doing things, and that's what makes it fun. Uh, I find it so much easier to paint each individual piece before I start putting them together and gluing them up. You can imagine trying to paint that hat in around his ears and whatnot if it was, it was all fastened.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just something that over 15 or 20 years, you kind of, it evolves, I guess.
Great job, Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
If I could just add to what Wayne was saying about the separate head, the other nice thing about it is you can turn the head. So,
Yeah.
if you can tilt the head, you can turn the head depending on what the rest of the setting's looking like, and that's a little bit of an advantage too.
This is why I have this. I mentioned I have a little small bust that I carved, just a very small. Well, it suits his size. Uh, while I'm working on the rest of the thing, I can turn that head. I probably turn it 15, 20 times to get, and it will change the personality of that character unbelievably. I mean, and that's what I said. Now I'm starting to think about and experiment with putting that hat on just a little bit cockeyed. You'd be surprised how much that really brings a smile to somebody's face. So, yeah, it's the little things that count, I guess.
You even turn it right around, Wayne, eh?
Well, you could, yeah. I have done the baseball hat on backwards, like the young skateboarder going with his hat on.
Yeah.
On back there, and it's like I say, I don't really put a lot of planning in. They sort of evolve as I have a general idea where I'm going when I start, but I never know exactly how I'm going to get there. And sometimes they change quite a little bit from my original plan, but
they always turn out nice.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Any additional questions or comments for Wayne?
Yeah, I've got one, Mark. Wayne, how do you make sure that the dowel is in the correct place in the hat for the hole? I realize you use the graphite to carve the hole in the hat, but if you get the hole carved out, then how do you get the dowel in the middle of the hole where it should be?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and they haven't all been they haven't all been perfect. Okay. What I do is after I've carved the head, and then I flatten the top of it, I'll drill. I use 1/8 inch dowel, so I'll drill a hole. I'll locate the center of the head in the flat spot where I rounded off, and I will drill a hole in that as near perpendicular as I can. But it doesn't have to be perfect. And remember, I said I use a 1/8 dowel, but I drill a 9/64 hole. So that dowel is going to be a little bit slack, a little floppy in there. I drill it down in there probably 1/4 of an inch into the head. Then I'll I'll fit a piece of dowel in it without glue or anything, and I'll mark it so it protrudes maybe 1/16 out beyond the flat spot. Take it out, cut it off, put it back in, and put the graphite on the end of that dowel. So that dowel is in the top of his head, and it's protruding out about a 1/16 of an inch. Then I fit the hat back on it and just give it a little wiggle, and the graphite will mark the underneath side part of the hat exactly where the hole should be. Here again, when I drill the hole in the hat, I use 9/64. So there's some play there. So I mean, it hasn't got to be perfect, and the glue will take care of that.
Okay, so the dowel's not too far up in the hat.
No. Probably a quarter of an inch in the head and a quarter of an inch in the hat. So you're talking. It's only a half inch piece. Oh, but by the way, after the one that I marked with the graphite and marked the whole hat, then that piece of dowel gets thrown away, and when I assemble it, I use a piece of dowel that would be like a half inch long. And
Oh, okay, I got you there. Okay, thank you.
Good explanation.
So
Thank you so
Wayne, just to let you know, the important thing is when you make the hat and cock it off to the side, you can tell people that that's in the lock position.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah.
That's right.
We've just experienced a lot of wind down here the last 2 or 3 days. A lot of wind, and well, there's a lot of hats going around here sideways right now.
They weren't locked on.
No, sir. They say when it blows like that, you want to have your hat all the way on. So
Thanks so much for this, Wayne. That was really interesting.
you're welcome.
Okay, let me see if I can get this thing going again here. I don't know whether I'm locked up. Here we go. There we go. Yep. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about our challenge, and remember that the whole notion of the challenge that that John and I put together was based on a conversation we had as a group of trying to do a few more challenges, and we put this challenge together with the theme of carving round because it's so important. Like whether you're a novice carver or you've been carving for decades, we still fall in the trap of often leaving our caricature carvings a little bit squarish. And so this notion about getting used to having no flat spots on your caricature and having things rounded like you would expect the head and the body and arms and legs to be is really important to the caricature. So John initially put the whole baseball bat notion together on the left there, and then we followed up with something a little bit more complicated, but along the same lines of carving in the round with the hoodie. And our hope is, and we've got some good feedback from you already that that people are trying these, and we hope that our next session together we'll see some more people trying them. And John, you and I didn't talk about it, but I was thinking to myself maybe in our next session, as people offer more of the baseball bats and the hoodie guy or their version of the hoodie guy, maybe we want to do a little draw for those people who have participated in it and have a little prize or two. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so we'll try that next time. Okay, so Pamela, you sent in a baseball bat. Do you want to talk about that?
It was a good challenge. Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late.
No problem.
It was a good challenge. I enjoyed it. I found it was a couple of I kept making the grip smaller because I was changing, and I can see I've got some burrs up in the top. 3 of them there sticking out like a sore thumb. And so it was a really, really amazing experiment. I happened to find one of those things I seen. I'm always got my eyes peeled. So if you have anything on your desk, John, I might see it. So I had one of these available.
Yeah, I got one.
So I was doing one of these.
Yeah.
And then I was marking it with my pencil. So my biggest problem I have with these, my question is, the pencil mark makes it really, really dirty. And you don't want to sand because that would be cheating.
Yeah.
So that's my question for this. But this came in handy because I'm anal. I had to finally say enough.
Yeah.
Enough. Just put it down. It's a bat.
Yeah.
It's not a competition for $1,000. It's a bat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just racing the pencil line, just really fine cuts, and going over top of that again, and just keep on fine. Like
till you run into
knife.
another burr, and then you're in trouble again, and then you're catching up. Like I thinned this piece down. I don't know how many times.
Yeah, that's
kept
how
getting thinner.
Yeah,
then I was doing the roll test.
Oh
I
yeah.
did the roll test to make sure it rolled perfectly.
Yeah,
Wow,
Lily,
you really got granular with this thing.
but just to give you a sneak peek of what's coming up,
yeah.
wait,
All right. All right.
Right on.
that's next week or next month.
Hey,
Fantastic.
right
So
on.
thank you for the challenge. I really liked it. I
That's
would
good.
have. I'm actually going to think about taking it and putting it on a new thing, but I'm going to go like that. You know how they hit it before
Oh
I,
yeah,
so I can display it, kind of like.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
yeah. Beautiful.
Your notion around the pencil marks, I think John has mentioned this in the past. I remember, I can't remember his name. Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan, in one of our initial Zoom calls, he was talking about painting his carvings, and he takes his carving before painting it and puts it in the sink and uses a nail scrub brush with soap and scrubs the whole thing down.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah. And
Okay.
so the point he was making was a little bit pencil, but more just the handling you do with your hands and the oil that gets off your hands.
Yeah.
And so he did that with all of his carvings, and I started doing that when I heard him talking about that. And so that might be a way that you can handle the pencil marks too.
This did have a thin coat of floor sealer as well, an organic, safe. But I kept fiddling with it, so it all ended up coming and getting peeled off or
Yeah.
off anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a nice looking baseball bat though.
thank you.
Yeah, I do the same thing with washing it down with the hot soapy water. Makes it really cleans it up with all the burrs and the soaking it and that. It's a great idea, like you say. That when you do hot water and a really good hot water and soak and scrub it really good, makes a big difference.
Yeah, and you might recall when John was showing us how to paint, the way he paints, he makes sure that everything is wetted down. So that's a good start to painting, is everything's going to be really soaked.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. Baz, I think you're on the line.
Yes, I am.
There you go.
Okay. So I did the project. It was a lot of fun. Challenging, I tell you, it's so to get the roundness in it and so on. And as you said earlier, you were doing a lot of work on your bat. And when you start with a little guy, you're doing work, you're always, so I had to, at one point I said, that's it, I got to stop. And I said, he's going to be lonely on that board. So I decided to put a little snowman. And I reached out, I looked on Sue McCullen's Instagram, and she has a little snowman. I sent her a note. I said, Sue, do you mind if I get inspired by your snowman? She says, go right ahead, enjoy. So I did that little guy. And then I'm not at home in my shop, so I resort to Snow Tech, which is a product to pretend snow. And I think you must have other pictures, Mark.
Yeah, I
Of
do.
the snow. So we'll take a look what the Snow Tech did for me. So it does a bit of pretends you have snow and so on. And I painted that little guy, and so it was a lot of fun to do. And if I would have been home, I would have used sawdust and painted white, but I was not home, so I used so I'm not in my shop, so I didn't have access to snow dust, to wood dust. So I used that Snow Tech. But it was a lot of fun to do. And the actual carrot on the snowman is a chopstick that I carved and just stick it in. So, and that's my little Woody guy with the maple leaf on the front belly.
Very
So,
nice.
all Canadian.
Yeah, very nice. Nice job on that.
Yes. Thank you.
And Jacques, you sent in a project too.
Oh, I like the pants.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed doing your challenge there. The only thing is like around the eyes, I think I need a sharper knife or a detail knife, but I find it's rough around the eyes. But otherwise, I enjoyed doing this.
And again, you did a really nice job of the rounding. Like you can look at that and you can see how you must have drawn the center lines up and down at the front and side, because it's just nicely rounded right through. Even like one of the things I noticed on the photo you sent us here is you did a really nice job on the boots. So you know, the side center line would be pretty close to the sole of the boot. And you know, so you did a real nice job of that whole rounding. There's nothing square in that. It really looks sharp.
It's a compilation of all the challenges. We had boots last year. We had folds in the pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Now
right.
the rounds.
Yeah.
What we'll need is eyes or faces. I find that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. You did a nice job there, but like you say, you know, maybe just the tip of your blade just a little bit sharper wouldn't have got those burrs that you see in the eyelid. But eyes are hard to do, and as you say, you need a real sharp knife to do it. But you did a nice job. Looks good.
Thank you.
Dave, you sent us a couple here.
Yeah, I missed the first meeting when you introduced the baseball bat thing, but a couple other people in the club started doing them. So I started as well, and the knob on the end of the bat that reminded me of a Santa Claus hat. So I got
Yeah.
carried away and ended up making Santa Claus out of it. Nothing to do with baseball, but I thought it worked.
That's good.
And the other guy there, the pattern that you sent out with the guy with the coat on there, he looked like he was a bit hungry and cold. So I made him a hot chocolate and a biscuit there so he could have
Oh,
something
that's
to eat
good.
to keep warm.
Yeah, really nice.
Other than that, that's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just finished it last night. That's why I sent it to you so late last night.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that was easy to put on the slide deck. No, those are really well done, Dave. And again, you know, the whole notion is roundness. So, you know, as you look at this picture, you can see even the roundness in the arm itself, right? So it's not completely round because it's tucked into the body a little bit. And again, if you look at the shoes, there's nothing square about the shoes. Like the sole should be flat on the sides, but the top of the shoe leather there, it's all rounded. Looks really good.
I got one other thing there. Back to the Wayne's thing about cutting the top off of a hat. I don't know if you can see my picture or not, but Lee Valley sells a knife that looks like a utility knife, but it's got a saw blade in it.
Oh,
And it's like, and it works very good for doing small work like that, and it does a great job. Lee Valley.
okay. Thanks. Okay, thanks for that, Dave. John, you're on the line.
Yeah, it was fun to do this little project. I just thought I'd make them Canadian, just everything that's happening, and I thought a lot of the people that are wearing hoodies right now are black and they're robbing jewelry stores. So so I just thought I'd make them gray and then have some red running shoes on them and represent Canada.
I like how deep you got his between like his face and the inside of the hoodie. And you can tell that the roundness or the circle, if the circumference, if you want, of the head is narrower, is a lesser diameter than the circumference you'd see on the hood. So it really looks smart. It really pops out for that reason.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the drawstrings too. You put in the little drawstrings there. I like the wrinkles around the inside of his arms. Really looks sharp.
Shoes are really good too.
Yeah, really nice. Good job.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah, I did this guy a couple of years ago for my grandson. His name is Cooper. And when you did the thing with the course that you put on with the different
At Queens, yeah.
people, I forget what it was, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, this is a fun project with the little guy. I love the hands in the pockets and the smile and so on and so forth. This was a neat little Christmas hanging decoration. But it's yeah, like a fun little project. It was kind of neat.
Now, is this a tiny little carving? Is that why it's a tree decoration?
Yep. It's only maybe 2 inches high.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. So it maybe 2, 3 maximum. Yeah, so we go hang in the tree.
Yeah. Really nice. Yeah, and this whole notion of rounding things, you just nailed it. Like look at the arms, how they're tucked into the little pouch there. It's just it's right on the money.
Yeah, thank you. And the way the face is sticking out a little and it's out of the hoodie and that kind of stuff. So you have like the circle of it just face like sticking out a little bit of the hoodie, but the hoodie's over top is top of his head, and then like you said, with a pocket, hands in the pockets, and I like little booties and things like that. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I was pleased with that.
Good job. Okay, Mike, I got a couple
like
slides
it.
here, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I saw your hoodie guy, I thought it'd be a heck of a lot of fun, and so I guess we got kind of a patriotic theme going on. I see we're looking at all the other people's work. This is work in progress, but our favorite sport in winters is cross country skiing. So I thought I'd make him into a little skier. I had to make his tummy a little thinner. Oh no, it's happening again.
You have too many. You have too many friends, Mike.
Oh, that's ridiculous. I've never seen such a thing. You can still hear me though, eh?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, all right. I'll just keep talking, although I don't see it anymore. Okay, so anyway, so I just made this little guy going down, and I got some bark, and I thought maybe if I actually, since that picture was taken, it's, of course, I haven't got painting or anything yet, but I'm doing a downhill there with a piece of bark so that I can show the sides of the bark and the rough bark that's there, and I can show them kind of going down a hill a bit. And I put some the snow I'm doing is just plaster, and I'm going to make the two grooves that you find for classic skiing, and have them go down there, and he'll be on that slope. And you see, he's an Olympic hopeful.
Yeah,
so I've got little messages on him there about dream big and Olympics or bust. So those are the little things I got with, plus like the other people did with maple leaf, the Canadian maple leaf.
Yeah.
I haven't decided the colors, but I do like some of those ones like Baz and them who have those gray hoodies. I think that looks pretty cool. And I was trying to figure out what color to make them. And I haven't, that might be my best bet to follow suit with what you guys did.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you did a really nice job on this, and you brought out the face a little bit differently too. You know, you gave him a little bit more detail in the face. Looks really smart.
I like it. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was trying to make him look kind of determined and a little scared.
Yeah.
Is that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay, that's a great job, everybody. Thanks for taking that challenge on. I think John Paul will just leave that challenge open for people to work on it between now and the next session as well.
Yeah.
And as we said, maybe what we'll do is at the next session, all of those people who have taken on the bat or the little hoodie guy challenge, we'll just put everybody's name in a hat and pull a name out and award a prize. Okay. So thanks for taking advantage of that challenge. That's fun.
Really impressive. Really big big changes. Really good.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, thank you. So I think pretty much the last thing we want to talk about is this notion, and it's just a notion at this point, around small group tutorials. So we have our Thursday sessions, our third week of the month sessions, and they're a lot of fun. The downside of doing it the way we do it is, there's 35, 40 people on the line. So it's hard to run a live carving session because, you can just watch it like you're watching a video, but we really can't help you individually when it's 35, 40 people. So the notion is to do something in addition to our Thursday night sessions and just suggest maybe we get small groups of 3 or 4 people together, plus an instructor, to run a session. And we're thinking maybe this should be like a morning session or an afternoon session for those people who are retired possibly and available. But that doesn't mean we couldn't do an evening session for those people who are only available in the evening, and probably keep the session and the project to something that we could accomplish in like a 3-hour time span. And so, things like the baseball bat, things like the little hoodie guy, all of those things can be done inside 3 hours. And if it's a little more complicated or people are having a little bit more trouble with it, then we can provide enough discussion so that you can continue working on it for an hour outside of the 3-hour session.
Yeah, leave you with homework. Yeah, homework.
Leave you with homework, exactly. Yeah. So our notion, at least, was to start with a couple of projects. So we're not going to try to, suggest that we're going to do 10 projects and have 15 groups, but just start with a couple of small projects, one led by John Paul and one led by myself. and then just build on that. And so, we've got a suggestion here for some projects that we'll fire by you in the next slide. But a small project we can do in 3 hours. John Paul and I will start it, but then at the same time, like right now, suggest to the people that are on the line and that generally join us on these Zoom calls that if you want to instruct on a particular project, that's great. And so now we have 3 or 4 instructors. And you might think of a project you've worked on in the past that would, be good for teaching people a new skill and that you enjoyed doing and that you think you can accomplish in a 3-hour period. Then we'll set up a Zoom call for you to link up with 3 people on our TNCC and run through that project. So I will shut up in a minute as soon as I get through these. To start, we thought we'd offer first off to our Zoom participants for sign up. So we have we have 180 people on our distribution list, but we thought, again, let's walk before we run. So the people that we normally see on our Zoom calls who can make it on our Zoom calls because time zone allows them to do that. Maybe we just start by giving the first opportunity for ourselves to essentially sign up for one of these 3-hour sessions, and we'll just see what kind of interest there is. The only bugaboo in it would be if we, and I know we do have people on the line who don't have a bandsaw available or a scroll saw or something to cut out a blank. And so we'd want to make sure that we get those blanks to people. And so we could mail a blank. We could cut out on a bandsaw, like as an example, I could cut out on a bandsaw here in Ontario and send it to somebody. If an individual on our Zoom call, I'm thinking of like a person in the London area, that there are a number of people available. Maybe one of the other London fellow carvers could cut the pattern out on a Zoom call, but on a bandsaw. But we'd figure that out to make sure everybody ends up with a blank prior to the 3-hour call. So that's the notion behind it. Just to finish the thought, John Paul and I are suggesting a couple of Christmas ornaments that we've both enjoyed doing and completed recently. John's is on the left, and mine is on the right. Both carvings that we could do within a 3-hour time period with people, and have done within a 3-hour time period with people, and they're a lot of fun to do. So with that, I'm just going to stop share, and we can look at each other again and just kind of open it up for discussion. Is this an interesting idea? Is it a non-starter? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a great idea because it's a smaller based group, so you have questions and things. I would even like to maybe lead one on a face thing because I do tons of, for 13 years, I've been doing faces, and faces are very difficult for a lot of people. But if you
Perfect.
break it down on things and character faces, and that I find it's quite easy now because I've been doing it for 13 years. But
Yeah.
it's like that makes a difference on the carvings because you do the greatest carvings I found even with when I do women carvings. I spend months doing friggin' sometimes a carving, but then I do a carving at a woman's face and looks like a gargoyle. So I realize that sometimes even a guy's face, that if you don't get the character of face right, the rest of the carving really looks silly, let's just say. So anyway, so I agree with that, and the smaller groups and things like that is a great idea because then if you have questions and things like that, so yeah, very interested in that. I think it's a great idea, Mark.
Okay, that's good. And so the notion then, Larry, would be, if I was on your call, I was one of 3 people on your call, I'd be working on something. And if I didn't quite get something right, I don't need a whole lot of technology. I just need to hold it up in front of you. And you'd say, "No, okay, Mark, that's not bad, but do this or do that," kind of thing, right?
Exactly, that's perfect way of describing it, Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Okay,
you're
that's
visually seeing, it's not just talking about it, but like you say, visually, you can see it from the side, everything else. Okay, and it's sometimes just a little tweaking. It's not like a major thing. You understand the concept, but it's just how do you tweak it so it makes that difference.
right, right. Any other thoughts?
I really like the idea when I read it on like even just when I was working on my hoodie guy, I get myself in a pickle, and it's like, oh, how can I do this without? I keep, oh, I'm if I do it this way to work, and then find out, oh, I've just made it worse. So now how do I get out of that pickle? And you can, when do you stop? And so it's kind of nice to, like, I went once to the London group, and just by being in the group, because I don't have anything around me, just by being with other people, and I'd be like, oh, how did they do that? And so I learn better that way.
Great. Okay.
So I would love it
Super.
myself.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, same for me. It's around Montreal. I'm alone, so it would be great. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'd be very interested, Scott speaking, I'd be very interested in doing this, and the time frame of a morning or an afternoon for 3 hours is an easy sort of a thing for me. Just pick a day and
Yeah.
I'll be there with bells on. I didn't have a chance to finish my little hoodie guy, painted and stuff like that, but
Nice.
that's good.
him.
Yeah, very nice.
But it was the challenge of getting the feet and some of those types of things that would be so much more helpful in a session. And
Yeah.
with this one, I sort of got the forehead all screwed up. So then I decided to carve some hair into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a
And
great idea.
the other thing about it is, if there's 3 or 4 of us on a call, you don't only learn from the instructor, you learn from each other, right?
Yeah.
And okay.
So just email Mark which one you would like to take, and then we'll have to work on that. We'll work on it. See when
Yeah.
we do the class. Like
Yeah.
if you want to take it, right, Mark?
Yeah, I think you're right on. So if people want to just send me an email, tell me what you think. If you'd like to, if you see one of those you like over another one, just let me know that. Let me know when you'd be available, and maybe let me know if you have the ability to cut a rough out on a bandsaw too.
Oh, okay.
Because
We'll
then
give you a material list.
Yeah, we'll know what to provide. Murray, the thing that might be a little difficult is you are the guy with the enhanced Zoom package, so we couldn't do it without that Zoom package because we'd only have, like, I think we're only allowed 45 minutes with the basic Zoom package, but with yours it's unlimited. So can you manage? Can you see that as manageable, that you would be required to get us started and then you could go do your thing, but you'd get the individual instructor started by getting the Zoom up?
I think it's possible if I know ahead of time enough to set aside that morning, but to try to do 2 or 3 of those a week would not be possible.
No.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But I think that, excuse me, one of the things they can do is to have the using the 45-minute kind of things to start it off. Everybody starts together with the leader, and you go over certain points and then pause. You go off the 45 minutes and go ahead and try to carve something and do what you said, and then set a time after that, maybe a half hour, and come back in to show us what you did.
Yeah, that might work. I think I'd prefer to be there the whole time as an instructor. If I was instructing one of them, I think I'd prefer to be there the whole time if I could. But following your idea, you could always use up the 45 minutes and then call everybody again if we had to, type of thing, right?
Yeah, just as a matter of click into it at a certain time.
Yeah.
And the fact is that as I've done a couple of classes like this with people, they need time to do what we talked about.
Yeah.
And to just sit and look at your hands and carve away and have a face on the computer that's doing the same thing. Nothing's being said. You have to work.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah. Well, we can try that too. What I was picturing was the Zoom call. If you had a 3-hour Zoom call, it would be just like we were all together in the same workshop. Live doing this, and we'd be looking at each other. We'd be talking about the weather, but we'd be carving, and And then as people are carving, if somebody says, geez, I think I made a mistake here, you'd say, well, hold it up to the camera. Okay, here's what you need to do, right?
Right.
So maybe what, I think you're absolutely right. Like none of us are going to be getting involved 3 or 4 per week, but if we could start off and do one in a week, we could just kind of see how it's going, and then get feedback from people afterwards. If they said, geez, look at that felt like paint drying, watching paint
Uh,
dry, we'd do something different, right? But
so Mark, I think we have another option as well. I've been using Google Team a lot, and that's been working really well. And it's unlimited, and it's free.
Google Team, it's called, John.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna have to educate myself on that then.
I've been using that a lot because I don't have the Zoom, so
Yeah.
I've been using that a lot with the team.
Okay. And
But
it's just like
if
this, John. It's just like this.
Right? It's exactly like this, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll look that up too and educate myself on that. Thanks, John.
What I can do, Mark, is I can invite you to a Google Team meeting, and then you'll see what it's like.
You can walk me through it. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do
I
that.
think that you need to open an account Google though to do that, right?
No,
No?
no.
Okay, good.
I
The
had
other
a
thing,
question I
a
had
question.
that we need to have, if you think of the different ones that you've been following on the internet with the carvers there, to have a camera mounted on the instructor's bench so
Yeah.
you can see it.
Yeah.
And the big problem I see when I've done this kind of thing is I've tried different things, camera here and camera here and camera that. My hands get in the way no matter what I do. Can't see it.
Yeah.
It's got to be a couple of strokes and then show and stop. And
Yeah, I
let the
think you're.
persons catch up with you when they're doing it.
Yeah, I think you're right though. Like the instructor probably needs to have a remote camera. Everybody else can just have the camera on the computer because you're just kind of
Yeah.
holding it up, type of thing. But that's a good point. Elliot,
Well,
I think I
how
cut
much
you
is
off.
how much is a Zoom package? Like I'd be willing to throw in like that it for unlimited if that was the case as a group. I'd be willing to, I don't know how much. I don't know how much. I've never had to.
I think it's to the tune of $300 or something.
Right.
An
For the
annual
year?
fee. Yeah, an
Yeah,
annual
it's
fee.
about 200 plus, maybe up to $300 when you get some more to it. But what happens is it's just one person is the chair.
Yeah.
I can't, like if we had it, I asked about that first to have myself and Mark together on that. That would be an easy way to do it. But one thing that they said it cost you about another $200 or $300 to have the second person at it.
Mhm.
So it's,
Well, let's just kind of know that in our hip pocket we have our Zoom call that you host for us, Murray, and we can start by just trying that. But in the meantime, I'll look at this Google Team as well and see what
Yeah,
that.
that sounds really good.
But let it, yeah, I want to get back to Elliot because I cut him off. But let's leave it that you guys will contact me individually. Let me know what you'd like to do, when you're available to do it, and if you have a bandsaw and that kind of facility available to you, it'll give us a sense of how to schedule this stuff, and then we'll just put a schedule out and give it a try. But Elliot, I think I cut you off earlier.
yeah, it's okay. Mark, Craig, if he's on the line still, he did that class with Dale Green. So you could ask him how he did that, whether that was with Zoom or what it was, and how it worked with how the hands were in the way, or and if it was clear or what.
Yeah. You want to speak to that, Craig? Hey, Craig, you're just on mute. There we go.
Okay. You're right. A lot of it I couldn't see because your hands are in the way. You're right about that. And I tried to carve as he was carving, but when you have people that have been carving for 30 and 40 years, they're cutting pretty fast. And by the time I look up again, he's doing a nose and I start working on the nose and he's got the ear done. And that's one of the things I want to tell you. Mark, if you're going to have a class, you should pick something that takes you an hour to do and allow 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's in the same speed.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You got beginners, you got guys who've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
But there's going to be questions going back and forth, and it just takes time. Basically, the thing I saw with Dale Green is I just sat and watched it.
Mm.
And I belong to Wood Carving Academy as well, so it was recorded on that, and I can go in and see it anytime I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So then I can start and stop it when I want to, which is the way to do, because it's almost impossible to carve along with you because you're moving along and you got to look down to see what you're doing, because I've had most of my fingers most of my life and I'd like to keep them.
But I think you're right, Craig. And so, you know, John and I kind of came up with these two little projects in exactly the fashion that you just spoke to. You know, these are probably 45-minute to an hour carvings,
okay.
but we'll give ourselves 3 hours. And what I like about it is that I get to carve with other people, and I stop and I look at what they're doing. I let them hold it up, and we just take our time. We talk through it. I don't go to the next step until I see everybody's pretty much at that step, and we just have fun with it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All okay. Right. Well, look, it sounds like
Good.
I cut somebody off, I think.
I had a question too. We're talking about depending on Murray mostly, and perhaps you're looking into something new. Maybe, I don't know, canvas the rest of the members to see if anybody else has the same capability like Murray. Are they able to run a meeting?
Yeah.
Maybe they have their own system. I'm just asking. That's an option.
Yep.
What about even Skype too, Mark? Skype or Messenger?
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll just start with what we've got, but we'll follow up on
that
John's.
Google.
Yeah, that Google Team thing. I'm not aware of that.
Good.
And if
My
that's
suggestion is to follow what John said, John LeMay, and maybe a few of us to get onto Teams and try it,
mm-hmm.
and then see how that particular thing works. Like, maybe I'll do that with you, with 3 or 4 of you to try that.
Mm-hmm.
And give it a whirl. So the big thing that we found over this period of time of using Zoom is there's a great learning curve for a lot of people coming on for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get into Teams, that's a whole new thing. It's just recently arrived for us to use. So it's going to be a matter of getting onto that to use it too.
Well, John, why don't you take the lead on that for us then, and schedule a time for maybe Murray and John Paul and I to get on team with you, and you can give us a little tutorial on it, and we'll see how that pans out.
Okay, well, I'll do that.
If you
can you record on that? Can you record it?
Yes, I believe we can. Yes, we can.
With Teams, Teams you can, but it's Microsoft Teams, and you get it depending on what Microsoft license you buy. Google is Google Meet versus Google Meet versus Microsoft Teams.
Okay, Google Meet. Okay, I'll try that then. Okay, let's try let's try that. We'll just...
So what I can do is I can send an invite to Murray and John and Mark for tomorrow afternoon. Would that work?
Yeah, later in the afternoon it'd work for me.
Yep, I'm good.
Yep. If you can, at the same time, John, if you can manage to teach something to Murray and John about carving, that would really be good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's too challenging. Forget that.
One of the things that I found extremely helpful when I was working on this hoodie thing was the one slide where you showed the sequence of the carving that you had done.
Right.
And that allowed me to, instead of trying to rely on my memory as to what the next step was being able to get in there and actually follow along with it. Otherwise, I was getting myself off on tangents and things like that. So that might be something else to consider providing along with the...
maybe when we send out the invitation to people, we send out that kind of an outline at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Scott.
it would always become like a magazine when they show the different things on each page.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but the advantage of this would be is that you have the different pages, but you can talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Talk to the page.
Yeah.
Magazine
exactly.
doesn't talk back to you.
Yeah. Okay, that's good, guys. Thanks for the feedback on that. Let's get you guys to send me your thoughts on email, what you'd like to do, and we'll set one up and try it. And even if we just get one done between now and the next meeting, we'll have something to reflect on and improve on. Okay. So
I'm gonna
thank you
get
very
Teams
much.
to try.
I'm sorry, Murray.
I'll get Teams to try, get set up on them. They've been begging me to get into there right now. So.
Good. Okay, that's good. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. And you have time to make some popcorn and go watch a hockey game.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go
Okay.
Canada, go.
Go Canada,
I
go.
appreciate, and last year I've learned more from all these challenges than I have in 13 years before. So I thank you guys very much.
Oh,
You're
thank you.
welcome.
That's
Yes,
great.
thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good
Good
meeting.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
night.
Talk to you soon. Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.